Hello, everybody. How are you? I am here looking for a way to share this with my bootcamp group, and I'm not seeing that it's possible. Let's see. Give me just 1 second. I see a bunch of you. I may have to go tell my bootcamp group that we are right here because I'm talking about freeze-dried food today. Freeze-dried food, astronaut food, survivalist food. There is a lot to freeze-dried. Hey there, Larry. There is a lot to freeze-dried food, and I'm going to take the mystery out of it today, right now, with some real-life tips and examples. There goes the sun and the clouds outside, but with some real-life examples for utilizing it with a recipe. So before we go any further, hey there, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Belgium, hey there. Before we go any further, I want you right now just to think for a second, 1 or 2 recipes that you like to cook or your family likes to eat. I don't care what it is, all right? So our job today, just in the next 10, 15 minutes or so, if I can keep it short, is going to be how to tell if one of your recipes is eligible for for food storage. So we're going to talk about food storage for emergencies. And right now, hey there, Missouri, right now in California, there are hundreds of thousands of people waking up to no power today. Are any of you there in California? Waking up to no power, no internet, no access. Some of them have no access to the internet or cable TV or whatever the case may be. So what if you're in California right now and you were thinking, I wish I had gotten some food storage because I don't feel like cooking from scratch, or there's no way to turn this electric skillet on or my electric range. What do you do when the power is out and you still need to cook a meal? What are you going to do if you have to load the kids up and the dogs because the floodwater is about a half a mile away and you're pretty sure it's going to hit your house? What do you do? And that's what I want to help you with. And we're going to start with a recipe. And I have been a big fan of food storage by recipe for 10 years now. Because when you go to the grocery store or you make up your shopping list, you go by what you think you're going to cook, right? You make a menu, or at least you have a general idea in your mind. Okay, we're going to have, scrambled eggs, and we're going to have some ham, for breakfast. And I'm going to be making some spaghetti. Then we're going to have macaroni and cheese with bacon, whatever the case may be, right? And you think in terms of recipes. You really don't think so much in terms of 15 cans of, tomatoes and 12 cans of tomato paste and 14 cans of green beans and 2 cans of mushrooms. You don't really think in terms of that, and neither do I. So I'm going to give you a real life example for how I think about freeze-dried food and food storage. Are you ready? Okay. Here's what I do. I find a recipe, or I use one that our family has, and I look at every single ingredient. So before I go on, over in the comments, what are some recipes or what are some dishes? Hi, everybody. What are some dishes that you especially like? Over in the comments. What is a meal that you're thinking, I would really like to be able to cook this if we had a big power outage? I would like to cook this if there was a wildfire and we're pretty safe, but at the same time, I don't want to do a whole bunch of cooking. We have someone from the UK. Hey, how are you doing, Kevin? You are in Brexit country. So you might need some food storage. We have also Jody says potato soup. Come on. Tell me in the comments, what are some of the recipes, foods that you make, and you're thinking, I think maybe this would be a good one to stock up ingredients for, because eventually what you're going to do is you're going to get a list of recipes, and then you're going to analyze them with me in just a second to decide, is this something that makes sense for food storage or not, and for me to plan on it. Here's an example. We have beef stew or chili. We have hamburgers. I have a recipe, and I love it so much. It's an old Pampered Chef recipe, and it is taco lasagna. And I've got to tell you, I need taco lasagna now. It's layers of taco meat, and you mix sour cream with chili powder, and you layer it all together with corn tortillas and green onions. It's amazing. It's amazing. I haven't made it in about 5 years. I make it whenever I feel skinny. How about that? But I got to tell you, it's not a good candidate for food storage. So if there was ever a power outage, let's say that went on for a month, I would not have a chance of making that because the sour cream, yeah, you can buy freeze-dried sour cream, but not quite the same. You'd have to make homemade corn tortillas for a long, long period of emergency period. So we're going to kind of turn that around and say, okay, we know there are some recipes that are not really food storage friendly, but they are still, I'm going to see if I can let the ladies over in the boot camp group know that I'm here. But nevertheless, I'm on Facebook, but you still want to store up food for them. So the idea is, what ingredients could you have? Here we go. What ingredients could you have on hand so you could make spaghetti and meatballs? What ingredients if you want to make corn chowder? And that's the recipe we're going to look at right now. Let me just give them real quick. Okay, nothing quite like watching a lady type. So one recipe that I like to make is corn chowder. And I was looking at this recipe. If any of you want to do a search so you're looking at the same thing, open up another tab. And it is, let's see, corn chowder with chilies on a recipe page called Yummly, YUMMLY.com, Yummly. I just picked it out at random. So I'm looking at the ingredients, and it calls for bacon, butter, onion, corn, a couple kinds of chili, chicken broth, whipping cream, kosher salt, cornmeal, and water. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, okay, if I wanted to stock up ingredients so I could make this, let's say once a week, for some kind of emergency, or, just a time when I don't want to go grocery shopping, how could I, what I call survivalize this? So I'm looking at the bacon and I'm thinking, okay, you can can bacon. Did you know that? You can take raw bacon, you can put it in canning jars, and you can put it in a pressure canner, and you can can bacon. So maybe if you got to have your bacon, that's what you'll do. But freeze-dried, what I might look at, here, I brought an example. This is freeze-dried ham. So, I don't know if you can see that. So maybe for this recipe, I might think, I'm going to forego the bacon. We're going to get some freeze-dried ham, and I will just use maybe a 1/4 cup or so in my chowder. The next recipe is butter. You can buy butter powder. That's right. Onion, freeze-dried onion or dehydrated onion. Corn, freeze-dried corn. Chili peppers, you can buy freeze-dried chili peppers. Chicken broth, you can buy big containers of chicken bouillon through a company like Thrive Life. Heavy whipping cream. This might be a little tricky. I know that you can buy heavy whipping cream in the cardboard containers that are shelf stable. Not so easy to find. They might be on Amazon. But if I were making this using all freeze-dried ingredients, I would probably just make a little thicker version of powdered milk or dried milk. And it would be fine. Salt, super easy to store. Cornmeal, super easy to store. And a little bit of water. This calls for a 1/4 cup of water. So this recipe, it looks like it was a Pioneer Woman. It looks like they maybe reposted it here, but I'm going to go ahead and put it over in the comments. So if I was going to plan an emergency menu and I wanted to have, let's say, 3 or 4 weeks of emergency food, and I'm thinking, I want to make this once a week. Okay, once a week, well, then you take the ingredients and you just multiply by 4, and you end up knowing exactly how much you're going to need. That really is a super easy way. Kelly Smith, you have a question. I'd love to hear it. So the idea is, while I'm waiting for Kelly's question, the idea is looking at a recipe and saying, can I get every recipe or every ingredient here, either dehydrated or freeze-dried, or is it just a basic staple, like salt or sugar or cornmeal, something like that. So in a soup recipe, rice, adding a little bit of rice, adding some elbow macaroni, all of those would be very, very shelf stable and easy to store. So again, think of recipes that you already use and like. Step number 2, go down the list of ingredients and see, do pretty much all of these, how would I store them? and using freeze-dried food. I brought actually some freeze-dried beef here. Let me show you what they look like. So if you were going to make, someone mentioned beef stew. So if I was going to make beef stew, let me hold on just a second. What is that? Someone said fajitas, tuna pasta sauce, corn and bacon in a corn chowder. Oh yeah. Chicken spaghetti, Vicky says. Kelly says hamburgers. Hamburgers would be tricky. So Kelly, what I would do if my family loves hamburgers, I would think, well, what could I use ground, freeze-dried ground beef in that they would like also? Because hamburgers, if you think about it, and this is key, when it comes to storing food, you want to look for recipes where meat in particular is an ingredient. All right? It is really hard to find freeze-dried Cornish game hens. Okay, or a freeze-dried T-bone steak. All right, I don't think that's possible. So you want to look for some things. For example, Billy says beef stew. Well, this is a chunk of freeze-dried beef. It's actual beef. All right, and you can rehydrate this in warm water for maybe 15, 20 minutes, and you could easily, Billy, you could easily make a stew. Let's see, freeze-dried beef, freeze-dried corn. What else do you put in your stew? Freeze-dried potato chunks, definitely. Maybe a beef bouillon. And then you would use some of the beef bouillon and some flour, maybe to thicken it up. You'd add some salt and pepper, freeze-dried peas, freeze-dried green beans. Oh, I have freeze-dried green beans right here. So absolutely. So Billy, your idea, your freeze-dried green beans, your idea to make beef stew, it would be a perfect fit if you want to add freeze-dried ingredients. Another thing you can do is to make meals in a jar. Have you heard of that? In Survival Mom Sisterhood next month, we actually have an expert coming in to teach how to make a meal in a jar. And it's the same kind of concept. It's thinking green beans, beef chunks, potato chunks, corn, maybe some carrots, and you just put those in a jar in certain layers. The layers do matter. Add your seasonings, add your beef bouillon, and just seal it up in a canning jar. And now the next time you need a meal, you just dump those in a pot of water, you cook it however you want to cook it, and you have a meal. That's a meal in a jar. So in Survival Mom Sisterhood next month, that is our mini masterclass. And we're actually going to make a meal in a jar in a make and take. Never done it before. Never done before, but we're going to get on a group chat and we're going to make our meals in a jar all together. So I think that sounds like a lot of fun. Let's see. So Jennifer says arnica. Let's see. What should I do about back pain? Arnica is something that our chiropractor has suggested. And Kelly, what have you done so far? All right. What have you done so far for that? Because I think probably by the time someone gets to be, I don't even know what age in adult years, but we've all had a bad backache. And I'm sorry that you're experiencing that. Does that help? Does that help? When you think of freeze-dried food, you go to a freeze-dried food site, and it's like, it's everything. 2 or 3 different kinds of potatoes, and they have all kinds of meat, and they have ground beef, and they have beef chunks, and they have sliced beef. Then they have seasoned chicken slices, and then they have shredded chicken, and what on earth, okay? Let's take one more recipe idea. Does anyone have a suggestion? I have done the corn chowder, and we've talked through beef stew. What else? Burritos. Jill. Burritos. Okay. That's not going to stump me too badly. Think about what's inside burritos. Okay? Refried beans. You can get refried beans dehydrated or freeze-dried. I forget which. Easy. In fact, they even have pouches of those at Walmart, and they're really tasty. They're seasoned really well. Ground beef, a lot of times. Shredded chicken, both freeze-dried versions. What else? You'd have taco seasoning in there. You might have some chopped onions, dehydrated or freeze-dried. The trick is, Jill, is that tortilla. So for everyday food storage, yeah, you could have, I always keep flour and corn tortillas in the freezer. You never know. You never know when you just got to have enchiladas, right? So you can just keep them in the freezer, but you can also learn to make them from scratch. And a tortilla press helps a great deal with that. If you take some, you take a thing of like saran wrap and a length about this long, and you lay it on your tortilla press, you put the ball of dough on there for flour or corn tortillas, and then you cover it again with the plastic and you press it down. that makes a really nice and clean tortilla. Take some practice. You know, you see the ladies making that, like a Mexican restaurant, sometimes they'll be making the tortillas by hand. I used to be able to make Indian fried bread like that, flip-flop back and forth by hand, and it takes a lot of practice. But if you gotta have your enchiladas, if you've gotta have your fajitas, someone mentioned fajitas, if you gotta have that kind of thing, and tortillas are involved, that's what it's gonna take. All right, freezing some. I do not know of any freeze-dried tortillas. Let's see. Billy says, I have found heavy whipping cream shelf stable at Trader Joe's. Oh my gosh, Billy, that's good to know. I think maybe my mom told me about that. Right, so that would be great. Green chicken enchiladas. Debbie, you are talking my language, lady. Green chicken enchiladas. Oh my gosh. And I always put sour cream in my green enchilada or green chili sauce. And you get it all just amazing. So same thing, Debbie. The only tricky part that I can see here would just be the tortillas, because you get your. I do know that you can have freeze-dried chili peppers, and let's see, we'd have maybe some chicken broth in there. Sour cream powder. Sour cream powder would do the trick for a sauce like this. I don't. For me, when you make when you take sour cream powder and you reconstitute it, it doesn't taste the same as fresh sour cream. However, you know what? You could just get used to it. And in some recipes, you might find it works. And in some recipes, you think, you know, I just need fresh sour cream for this. But green chicken enchiladas, Debbie, absolutely. One more person. I feel like a challenge. I feel like a challenge. What else do you have? Fried rice. Jody Crane Anderson. Fried rice. Are you guys trying to stump me? And Jody, I have a feeling that you know that fried rice would be actually really easy to do. I mean, rice has such a long shelf life. Just keep it dry. That is literally all you really have to do with rice. Keep it dry. Your seasonings for fried rice, soy sauce. Now, soy sauce has a long shelf life, and I like to put soy sauce in mine. Fried rice, sometimes I will make a fried egg and kind of scramble a little bit. This is what I do. I scramble the wet egg, the wet egg in my skillet, and then I let it cook completely, and then I try to flip it over so it cooks on each side, and I end up, you know, with a circle of fried egg, and then I just kind of cut it and dice it into little things, and I mix it in with the rice. Jody, you could easily go the route of the freeze-dried ham dices, and you want to make sure those are reconstituted in warm water. And when they're nice and soft, just add those to the fried rice. Same thing with shredded chicken. And then you have peas. You can add, what else? Fried rice would be really easy to do. That would be a very easy recipe. So does that give you an idea? Does it give you any help? You will come across some recipes where it is just, you think, you know what? This relies way too much on fresh ingredients. An example would be a stir fry. You can get freeze-dried spinach, you can get freeze-dried cabbage, but I think that the kind of the crispiness that I like in a freeze-dried would be, it just wouldn't be there. There's kind of that crispy little bit. So a stir fry is one that I don't think that I would actually do. I wouldn't plan on that. But there's so many that I would. Okay, and you'll find more ingredients that are food storage friendly than not. Real quick to tie it up. When you have your list of recipes, what you got to do, and this part makes it so easy. What you're going to do is see how many, okay, go back to our ham dices, right? Freeze-dried ham dices. Okay, how much ham do I need for fried rice? One recipe. Let's say you need half a cup, all right? So half cup. I'm going to make fried rice once a week in an emergency, all right? So now I know, okay, I need 2 cups of freeze-dried ham. I'm going to make some of that scrambled egg stuff. So I know that I'm going to need some egg powder, right? Super easy. You're going to have salt and pepper. Maybe you want if you love soy sauce, you might want to buy it in get it in like a gallon or half-gallon container. Freeze-dried green beans for that, freeze-dried peas, freeze-dried corn, and then just take the amount and then just multiply it by 4. And now you know how much of each one of those ingredients you're going to need and you can buy. For our make and take, we're going to make a simple soup. And so I will give the Survival Mom Sisterhood members a list of ingredients. They have about maybe 3 or 4 weeks to put them together, and then we'll make it all together. But it really is easy. And so if food storage has just stumped you and you have thought, I don't want to live on canned tuna, I don't want to live on canned stew, All right, it's okay sometimes, but when you're thinking about, what if there was a really big emergency? What if there was a wildfire and the power lines went down and it might be 2 or 3 weeks before you get the power back up? Or in an ice storm, the ice storm happens, the power lines are down, and now you're at the mercy, literally, of the good people whose job it is to fix all that. So instead of, I want you to stock up on some canned stuff. I really do. Stock up on the canned things, but eventually, it's not a graduate. I want to say graduate, but not on the sense of just what that when you buy canned food, it's not good enough, or it's like kindergarten level, because it's not. But this stuff, just these ingredients, allow you to do a whole lot. You can make all kinds of recipes. Just think about the ham dices for a second. We add them to fried rice. We can add them to an egg dish. We can add them to a quiche, which is an egg dish. We can add them to all kinds of different recipes. And so they're very, very versatile across the board. One more tip. And that tip is this. Look for recipes. Start out by looking for recipes that share some ingredients. So ham dices, for example. See if you can think of 4 or 5 recipes that would all use ham dices. Maybe a ham and bean soup would be amazing. I found a recipe a while back, and oh my gosh, it was ham and beans, and the beans just melted in your mouth like butter. It was amazing. It wasn't beans, it was rutabagas. Yeah, it was ham and rutabaga. Couldn't believe it. I have never seen freeze-dried rutabaga. So for that, I'd have to dehydrate it myself or something. But anyway, Jody asks, how long does freeze-dried normally last? You know what, Jody? When you buy it, let me see. Green beans. Okay, green beans, it will tell you. And a lot of times, we're talking about months. The one enemy that you need to be aware of with freeze-dried food is humidity. Living from Arizona, living in the southern part of Texas, huge difference in humidity. And I've had to throw away some open freeze-dried food just because it started getting gummy, and I just knew that the freshness was gone. So Jody, what I would do, okay, let's say that you invest, and I'm not even advertising freeze-dried, a specific brand, but let's say you invest in a big can of freeze-dried shredded chicken. And you're thinking, well, I don't know about your circumstances, but it's just the 2 of us, and I'm going to take half of it and now put it in a canning jar where it's going to be kept fresher, and the other half I'm going to put in a canning jar with an oxygen absorber, or I'm going to use my food saver to seal it up in a vacuum sealed package. Because a lot of times when you buy it, maybe just you might use it just once or twice, and you don't want it to to really just start absorbing oxygen, humidity, and that is going to deteriorate the food. But Jody, if you can keep it dry, and even in a can like this, these green beans have not been affected by humidity, they will last for 6 months to a year. All right, and over time the nutrients might degrade just a little bit, but definitely still edible, and definitely would give you some ingredients. Hey Jody, Montgomery, you are practically a neighbor. Oh, that's kind of fun. And then someone says freeze-dried ice cream. Yes, Mitzi. Mitzi, are you a new member of Survival Mom Sisterhood? I had a Mitzi sign up, I think, yesterday. So Jody, I hope that information helps. All right, getting ready to sign off. Survival Mom Sisterhood. I'm just spreading the word and telling everybody. Survivalmomsisterhood.com, online membership where we talk about things like this, and we do practical little projects every single month. I call them mini challenges, and it's actually just a fun group of women. So the doors close to the membership on Sunday night. And then afterwards, I don't know when they'll be open, maybe not even until mid-January or February. So want to spread the word. And it's $27 a month, so less than $1 a day, and you get a little bit of prepping, motivation, and friendships, something that is unique in the online world. There's nothing like it. So does that help? I hope it does. I hope from now on, when you start looking at the recipes that you're making, that you say, okay, this one would be great for food storage, and then just set it aside or start a little list. And then when you get around to buying some dehydrated food or freeze-dried food, you'll start knowing exactly what it is you need to buy, instead of just guessing and ordering blindly, and then ending up with freeze-dried meals, the meals in a pouch. Some of those are good, some of those aren't. You could actually make your own meal in a pouch. That's the concept behind the meals in a jar. We're just going to make our own meal instead of going with Mountain House or another brand like that. So, hey, hope it helped. and I will be catching you later.